They say love blinds you, but I never thought it could deafen you too. For years I ignored red flags. That was until the day I came home early and heard everything. The cruelest truth from the woman I thought I'd spend my life with. You know, I've always seen myself as a simple guy. I grew up in a modest home where hard work wasn't just a value. It was survival. My dad worked double shifts as a mechanic, and my mom juggled jobs while raising me and my siblings. They taught me to appreciate the little things and never take shortcuts. Those lessons stuck with me, and I carried them into everything I did, especially my relationships. When I met Rachel in college, she was like no one I'd ever seen before. She had this energy that could light up a room. Back then we were just acquaintances, running in different circles. She was the charismatic star, and I was the guy quietly working 2 part-time jobs to stay afloat. But years later, after a random encounter at a mutual friend's event, things clicked. We started talking more than dating, and it felt right. For a guy like me, someone who always felt like he had to work twice as hard to keep up, Rachel made my life better with her presence. Honestly, being with her felt like I'd hit the jackpot. But if I'm being sincere, there is one thing about Rachel that didn't sit right with me. How she'd make these sarcastic remarks about my job. I work in logistics, and while it's not glamorous, it's honest work and I'm proud of it. But Rachel would sometimes laugh it off, saying things like, "At least you're not breaking your back for minimum wage, or maybe one day, you'll manage to get a corner office." It stung, but I tell myself she didn't mean it the way it sounded. Then there was her obsession with appearances. Over time, it became more obvious how much she cared about how things looked. What car we drove, what clothes we wore, even the kind of pictures we posted online. At first, I thought it was harmless. After all, who doesn't want to look their best? But there were moments when I'd catch her scrolling through social media, comparing herself to influencers, talking about how we needed to have the perfect wedding because people would be watching. It started to feel shallow. Still, I brushed it all aside. I figured, hey, planning a wedding is stressful, right? People say that couples argue more during this time because of the pressure. I chalked up her remarks and her behavior to wedding jitters, convincing myself that once the big day came, everything would settle down. Besides, I loved her. I loved her so much that I was willing to ignore those observations. I mean, how could I not? She was everything I thought I wanted, beautiful, smart, and full of life. And I wanted to make her happy, no matter what it took. That's why I poured every penny I had into our dream wedding. I skipped vacations, worked overtime, and cut back on just about everything so we could afford the venue Rachel loved, the designer dress she wanted, and even the fancy photographer she insisted on. It wasn't just a wedding to her, it was a statement. And I wanted to give her that, even if it meant sacrificing my comfort. Looking back now, I realize how blind I was. But at that moment, I didn't see it as a sacrifice. I saw it as love, and I thought it was enough. I left work early one day, feeling good about myself. Things at the office had gone smoothly, and I figured I'd surprise Rachel with her favorite dessert, a chocolate mousse cake from the bakery she loved. She had been stressed with wedding planning lately, so I thought it might make her smile. I wanted to remind her how much I cared. When I walked through the front door, I noticed how quiet the house was, except for her faint voice coming from upstairs. She was in the bedroom, probably on a call. I didn't think much of it at first. Rachel was always chatting with her bridesmaid, her best friend, about wedding details. But as I climbed the stairs, her tone caught my attention. It wasn't the excited, bubbly voice she usually used. I stopped at the edge of the hallway, just outside the bedroom door. Through the door, I heard her laughing. "Can you believe he's still working at that boring job? But hey, it's paying for the wedding, so it's worth it for now." I froze, and for a second, I wondered if I'd misheard her. But then she kept going. "Alex is so boring sometimes, but he's dependable, you know? Like, I know he'll always take care of me. He's a good backup." A backup? I stood there, trying to piece together what she meant, hoping this was some weird misunderstanding. But the next thing she said crushed me completely. Her friend asked, "But what about your ex?" Are you finally going to cut him off after the wedding? Rachel laughed again, that same cruel, casual laugh. Why would I? He's fun and he knows how to treat me. I'm not ending things with him. In fact, I'm seeing him before the bridal shower. He said he has a special early marriage gift for me. I leaned against the wall to keep myself from falling. My legs felt weak, like they couldn't hold me up anymore. That's when it hit me. I needed to record this. I fumbled to open the recording app on my phone, my fingers trembling as I pressed the button. I listened in stunned silence as she kept talking, oblivious to the fact that her every word was being recorded. Once the wedding's done, I'll have the best of both worlds, she said. Alex can handle the bills and the house, and I can still have my fun. Her words stabbed through me like knives. Every plan, every dream I had for our future together felt like a joke now. I thought about the countless nights I stayed up working late to make extra money for the wedding, and the sacrifices I'd made to give her the life she wanted. All of it felt meaningless at that moment. I couldn't believe this was the woman I had planned to spend my life with. The woman I loved was sitting in the next room, laughing about how she was going to cheat on me, mocking me as if I were just some clueless fool. When the call ended, I stood there for a moment. I wanted to storm in and demand answers, but something in me held back. I knew this wasn't the time to confront her. I needed to process everything, think about what I'd heard, and figure out my next move. I slipped out of the house as quietly as I'd come in, the dessert box still in my hand. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the dashboard. The Alex who had walked into the house that day wasn't the same Alex who sat in that car. Everything had changed. My future, my trust in Rachel, and even my sense of who I was, it all felt shattered. I had loved her so deeply, but at that moment I realized the person I loved didn't really exist. That realization hurt more than anything else. That night I didn't sleep much. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, playing her words over and over in my head. I wondered if I confronted her right then and there what her excuse would be. She'd cry, deny it, and spin some story to make herself the victim. She's good at that. I'd seen her do it with others. I wasn't going to be her next manipulation target. So I made a decision. If she was willing to betray me so casually, in such a cruel way, she deserved to face the consequences. And not just in private. She needed to be held accountable in front of the people she cared about, the ones who thought she was perfect, just like I used to. I decided the wedding rehearsal dinner would be the moment. It was the perfect stage. Everyone who mattered to her would be there, her family, her friends, the bridesmaids she'd been bragging to about her double life. They needed to see her for who she really was. The first thing I did was secure the recordings. I saved them in multiple places, on my phone, on my laptop, and even in an email to myself. I wasn't going to risk losing them. Those recordings were my proof that I wasn't crazy, that this betrayal wasn't something I imagined. It wasn't easy to keep going through the motions while I waited for that night, pretending everything was normal, smiling at her when I felt nothing but pain. But every time I felt the anger or sadness creep in, I reminded myself why I was doing this. I deserved better than her, and when the time came, I would make sure everyone else knew it too. Finally, the day came, and I showed up late to the rehearsal dinner on purpose. Normally, I'm the guy who's early for everything, punctual to a fault. But not that day. I needed them to notice. I wanted them to feel something was off before I even opened my mouth. When I walked in, everyone turned to look at me. Rachel was standing near the center of the room, glowing in her perfectly coordinated outfit, laughing with her friends like nothing was wrong. She was the image of a bride-to-be, confident and charming. But me? I didn't look the part. I was wearing jeans, an old shirt, and sneakers. No suit, no tie, no smile. The room got quiet for a second as people processed my appearance. I could see Rachel's brows furrow slightly, her smile fading for just a moment before she covered it up with a cheery, "Oh, you're here. What happened? You're late." She sounded upbeat, but there was an edge to her voice. I walked past her without a hug or a kiss, heading straight to the front of the room. That's when I turned around to face everyone. My heart was pounding in my chest, but I kept my hand steady. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I started, my voice calm but firm. "I know this is supposed to be a celebration, but before we go any further, there's something you all need to hear." The air shifted. Rachel's smile froze, and I could feel her staring at me. The whispers started, just a few murmurs from her friends. But I didn't let it distract me. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, connected it to the sound system, and hit play. Her voice filled the room, repeating what you already know about her plans to meet her wealthy ex for an early marriage gift, and her intention to keep meeting him regardless of being married. You could have heard a pin drop. The laughter that had filled the room earlier was gone. Completely gone. Rachel's parents looked horrified. Her friends exchanged shocked glances. "And Rachel?" She went pale. "That's not me," she stammered, her voice shaking. "That's not real. He's faking this." I didn't say a word. I just hit pause and scrolled to show the date and timestamps on the recording. "I recorded this in our home," I said plainly. "That's your voice, Rachel. That's your plan. And that's the woman I was about to marry." Her denial became frantic. "It's fake? He's twisting things," she shouted, looking around the room for support. "He's lying." But nobody was looking at me like I was lying. The evidence was right there, clear, undeniable. I didn't care to argue with her. I didn't care to hear her excuses. I looked her straight in the eye, not with anger, but with finality. "Rachel, it's over. The wedding is off. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I'm sorry you had to find out this way." And with that, I turned and walked out of the room. I could hear Rachel shouting after me, her voice getting louder as I got further away. But I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. I was done. When I got outside, I felt like I could finally breathe again. It hurt, God. It hurt more than I thought it would. But I knew I'd made the right choice. Let me tell you, the days after that rehearsal dinner were nothing short of chaos. At least for Rachel. Word spread quickly about what happened. I mean, with half of her family and friends sitting there, hearing her voice on those recordings, it wasn't exactly a secret anymore. People were stunned, and the disappointment in their faces was clear. Rachel's mom, who always treated me like her own son, called me the next morning crying. She apologized over and over, saying she had no idea her daughter could do something like this. Her dad, who barely spoke much before, actually showed up at my house just to shake my hand and say, "You did the right thing." Her friends started distancing themselves too. A few of them messaged me, saying they felt blindsided, like Rachel had been living a double life. Some even admitted they'd noticed her behavior changing, but never thought it was this bad. The chief bridesmaid, the same one she was bragging to in the recordings? Yeah. She went completely silent. I guess she didn't want to be dragged down with Rachel. Rachel's once perfect image, the one she worked so hard to maintain, was crumbling fast. People who used to praise her started seeing her for what she really was. Selfish. Manipulative. Oh. But Rachel? She wasn't done. Not by a long shot. It started the very next day. My phone blew up with texts from her. She wrote these long, rambling messages about how sorry she was, how she didn't mean any of it, and how the stress of the wedding made her say things she didn't mean. She kept saying, "It was just a joke, and you're overreacting." At first, I ignored it all, but then the messages turned into emails, and the emails turned into her showing up at my door. The first time, she was crying, like full-on, mascara running down her face crying. She begged me to let her in so we could talk. She said she'd make it up to me and even promised to cut ties with her ex if I gave her another chance. When I didn't respond, the tone of her messages changed. Suddenly I wasn't the victim anymore, I was the bad guy. She started accusing me of ruining her life and humiliating her in front of everyone. She said I should have talked to her privately instead of exposing her like that. She called me heartless. But here's the thing, None of it mattered anymore. I didn't feel anything for her, not anger, not sadness, not love. I was done. I never answered her texts or emails, or the door when she showed up. I blocked her number, ignored the knocks, and told my friends and family to do the same. I wasn't about to let her pull me back into her web of lies and manipulation. Looking back on everything, I can honestly say this was the most painful experience of my life. Hearing the woman I loved, the person I thought I was going to spend forever with, mock me and plan to betray me, it broke me. I won't lie to you, it hurt like hell. There were nights I just sat in the dark, trying to make sense of it all, wondering if I had done something wrong or missed something obvious. The heartbreak was overwhelming, but at the same time it was liberating. It forced me to open my eyes. I realized that I'd been holding onto an illusion, an idea of who Rachel was instead of the reality. Letting her go wasn't just about ending the relationship. It was about finally choosing myself, my peace, my happiness. And honestly, walking away was the best thing I've ever done for myself. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm ready to jump into another relationship. I'm not. Trust takes time to rebuild, especially after something like this. But I'm hopeful. I believe there's someone out there who will see me for who I am and love me for it. Someone who doesn't just tolerate me, but values me, flaws and all. To anyone watching this, if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Don't ignore the red flags. If something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. And don't settle for someone who doesn't accept and appreciate you for who you are. True love isn't about perfection. It's about honesty, trust, and mutual respect. I'd love to hear what you think. Have you ever experienced something like this? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share it. It really helps. Thanks for watching.